Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrea. Oh, I did it wrong. Let me start over again. See, this is why we do this. It's okay. Andrea. Was
You
it?
did it right. Actually, I
Okay.
got it right.
All right. Here we go. Thank you so much, Dr. Andrea, the spiritual physician, for coming on Wellness Your Way. I'm thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much, Megan. It is really my honor and pleasure to be here with you and your audience today.
Well, I know you will share so much incredible value, and I'm very excited for the conversation. So, I've read your bio for our audience to already hear all of the impressive details, but I'd love to hear, in your words, a little bit more about you.
Oh, wow. Well, all right. So where do I start? Well, I guess, you already know that I'm a board certified family physician. I service people here in New York City. And it's a real honor to be able to do that, right? To see people of all walks of life and to really, go into their health and their healing, right? And one of the beautiful things about family medicine is that I really get to see how it works within the family, right? Because our family and the people that are around us are so important in our own health, right? So
Yes.
when you're able to be in a position to really see all of the person, not just in a silo. I love using silo because I've siloed my life off in so many ways, right? In the past that um and that's another conversation, but when you see people in their whole experience, it just makes it so much easier to help them, to
Yes.
guide them, to be part of their health journey.
That's so wonderful. And thank you
Mhm.
for the work that you do. Now, you say a family medicine physician. I know our audience is familiar with that term, but you also take a more holistic approach and you practice integrative medicine.
Mhm.
And most of my audience is more familiar with that than average, but I'd love to hear what integrative medicine means to you and how that influences the way you practice.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, as your audience probably knows, Western medicine has really taught us to like separate our body parts, right? We go to the gastroenterologist if our stomach hurts, we go to the neurologist if our head hurts, we go to a cardiologist if our heart hurts, right? And there really is a space for that, and an appropriate space for it.
Mhm.
And if I'm having a heart attack, please pray for me, healing hands, but get me to the cath lab like yesterday,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Western medicine is priceless for emergencies, and some would even argue preventative in cases of vaccines and things along
Mm.
those lines, and testings. And we do save lives, right?
Yes.
But however, there are many of conditions that we experience that also have to do with this compartmentalization of how
Mhm.
we see our bodies, our health, and our lives, right? And many of and as tough as it is to digest, I think one of the things that we get to realize is that how we do one thing is how we do all things, right?
Great
And
point.
if yeah, right. So if you run 5 miles a day, right, and then you sit down and eat a whole pizza every
Yeah.
day, right? You have to think about how that's going to affect your well-being, right? And if you eat perfectly, whatever perfectly means to you, right? And you're persistently angry or critical or overall miserable,
Mhm.
how does that affect your emotional body, right? And you can be assured that whatever occurs in your emotional body, in your spiritual body, in your mental body, right, is going to seep into your physical body. So the rope, I guess the way that I see the rope definition of integrative medicine is really where you approach medical care by using, drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, and surgery, as well as combining it with complementary, like an acupuncture or yoga or things along those lines that have been deemed, right, safe and effective, right?
Yes.
Holistic or alternative medicine is different from integrative medicine because it's used only just instead of Western practices, and even some holistic practitioners can have like an adverse like rejection, right, of medical treatments, right?
Yes.
My approach is really holistic, like the whole person,
Yes.
right? And why is that? Well, in my experience, you really cannot heal a condition by treating one body part, like let's say diabetes, right? Diabetes is not healed with just medication and diet. Will your hemoglobin A1C, right? That lab result that everybody looks for, get better? Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
Will you feel better? Absolutely. But you'll notice that as life goes on, and the high of accomplishing, that goal has been met, then your numbers start inching up again,
Hmm.
right? And until you're a lot of times almost right back to where you started, right? So and you can really apply this to anything like hypertension, cholesterol, weight, whatever it may be, any and all chronic conditions. And what I have found is that if you don't address all the other bodies, right, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual bodies, there really will not be a transformation, right? There will be change, which is ultimately not bad. I mean, I love change, but it's not
Yes.
inherently long term. So I guess that's a roundabout way of saying that is the way that I look at the person sitting across from me, like as a whole person. And how do we get to touch all these different bodies in order to get real, real, real health and healing?
I absolutely love it. So, Western medicine certainly has a place for emergencies and many other scenarios. However, in most cases, it does not get to the root cause, which, as you're saying, touch multiple of the bodies, the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body. All of those need to be healed in order for us to have sustainable long-term healing. Is that kind of what you said?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You got it.
Wonderful. Well,
And the
I'm very,
spiritual body. Did I
and the
mention the
spiritual
spiritual?
body, of
Very
course.
important.
Of course. Thank you. I um I am board certified both in clinical nutrition and holistic nutrition
Mhm.
because I also believe in both. Like you said, there are some holistic nutritionists who are, oh my gosh, no, Western medicine is terrible. And I truly don't think that. I think that we all, if we could all just work together, we would make so
Yes.
much more progress.
Yeah. And you know what? And that is in all aspects of life, not
Yes.
just in health.
Absolutely. Yes, I know. We could, I'm sure, go down many rabbit holes there.
Hmm.
But let's bring it back to integrative medicine. I mentioned the word root cause, and I think this is in some ways a buzzword, but in some ways very helpful because, like you said, in the case of a diabetes medication, that's patching over. It can give us a result. It's not necessarily addressing the root cause. So I'd love to hear just a broad brush thought from you on what are some of the root causes, the more common root causes for issues that you deal with in your patients.
Yeah. Wow. Well, as you can tell, I'm pretty long-winded, but I'm gonna
That's
try to
great.
keep it brief.
Say whatever you want to say. It's all good.
um I believe that most of our root causes, or many of the root causes for, especially for chronic conditions,
Mm-hmm.
is stress
Yes.
induced. I
Yes.
believe that there's an emotional and spiritual dearth. We're not in touch
Mm.
with who we are, right?
Yes.
We're not internally validating ourselves. We're looking for external validation in one way
Yes.
or the other, right? In
Yes.
multiple ways. It can look very different for even people within the same family, right?
Yes.
So I think that part of it is not really understanding who we are and how we can deal with our own body's language, our own body's understanding of things,
Mm.
and actually put it into action. There's many people I work with are intuitive, which is really interesting, right?
Wow.
I
Yes.
think we're all intuitive to a
To
certain
some extent. Yes.
extent, right? And they're intuitive people, but yet they don't take action on their intuition. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason why I see is because there's lack of trust
Mm.
to it, because our world does not encourage us to go against the grain, right? To trust ourselves. Well, things are changing. I think things are changing in that way, but on average, it's like fall in line,
Yeah.
right? Like you get to fall in line, right? And
Yeah.
that's how you're successful in life, right?
Yes.
And so in order to move away from that, we have to be able to sit still enough to hear and understand what our bodies really need.
Yes. Oh,
So, yeah.
that's wonderful. Yeah, some quotables in there. I think that was a great explanation. You mentioned in there stress as a root cause, and I think that's very connected to rest and sleep and so many other things. But I'd love to home in on rest and sleep for a second. Can you tell me the impact of those on our health and even how those two are different? What's the difference between rest and sleep?
Oh, yeah. So, rest and sleep are both absolutely necessary. And even though we tend to use them synonymously, they really are different, right? So,
Mhm.
sleep is this actual, what's the word I'm looking for? This actual, what's the word I'm looking
State,
for?
a
State.
physical
Thank you.
state. Yeah.
Yes. This actual state where your brain goes through stages of sleep, right?
Hmm.
Ultimately going into REM sleep, right?
Yes.
Within sleep itself, your body, you're normally unconscious in the sense of you're not aware, you're not like anesthetized, but you're unaware of what's really going on in your environment, right?
Yes. Hmm.
With rest, it's almost akin to relaxation, right?
Hmm.
When you're resting, your mind and your body are calm, but you're still aware of what's going on. Your eyes could be open, your eyes can be closed, but you're almost bringing you're in a state where you're really just relaxed,
Yes.
and you have removed yourself from everyday activities, whether they be stressful or not, because everyday activities don't necessarily have to be stressful, but
True.
you've moved yourself from these type of activities. And what's interesting is that although rest and sleep are different, they both have physiological benefits, right?
Hmm.
Because when in rest, as in rest, you can bring your heart rate down, right?
Yes.
Through meditation, through
Yes.
prayer. You can bring your respiratory rate down, right?
Yes.
You can slow your sympathetic nervous system, right?
Yes.
And upload your parasympathetic system, right?
Yes.
Which obviously that does occur in REM sleep, right?
Hmm.
But in this state, we're awake and we've consciously decided to do this versus not.
Absolutely. And these are hard. I've gone through periods of my life where I didn't prioritize either one, unfortunately. And I'll say, even right now, I've gotten really good at prioritizing sleep, but I still get to be intentional about it prioritizing rest because it doesn't come as naturally to me. So I'd love to hear from your perspective as a super busy professional, full life. You're helping so many people. How do you prioritize rest and health?
Well, just like anyone else, I go through periods where rest has fallen to the bottom of the list.
Hmm.
And when I've done that, I've usually crashed, and I've
Yeah.
usually not reached my full potential. I'm usually snappy, I'm quick to anger,
Yes.
all of the above, right? That comes along with someone who is really not really taking care of themselves and honoring themselves.
Yes.
So in my best case scenarios, the way that I prioritize rest is by putting it in the calendar.
Ah,
Just like
love
anything
that.
else, you got to put it in the calendar, right? You have to say, all right, I'm working from this time to this time. And at 1 p.m., if that's your break, you get to leave whatever is done or not,
Yes.
and take that rest. And sometimes it could be a walk,
Yes.
right, around the block. Sometimes it's just closing. Maybe you can't physically go outside for XYZ reason, but you can close the door. You can put on some relaxing music, put on your headphones if if it's really loud around you,
Yes.
and close your eyes.
Yes.
Deep breathing is
Yes.
also a fabulous way to like bring yourself back down. So I would say that the only way that it really gets done is if you put it in your calendar and look at your calendar.
Yes. Yes.
And another beautiful thing that I've done that makes it possible is I use my phone. So I use
Yes.
my phone to set reminders to
Yes.
rest. I have I have a little mantra, and I'll say, joy, ground, and smile. And I
Oh,
set it like every 4 hours.
wonderful. Yes.
And it works. And it works. And sometimes I brush through it, but when I really take the time to do it, it's not just only helpful for me, but it's helpful for everyone around me.
I think that's so critical. I love when you said close whatever's done or not done, because we get to honor those commitments to ourselves to rest just as much as any other commitment. I'm really good at honoring the other commitments. And if I have a meeting with someone, I'm going to show up, but it's easier to just brush over when it says rest on my calendar. And when I do that, like you said, I don't feel as good. I don't serve my clients as well. I don't show up to my family as well. So I remind myself when those alarms go off, or I have my calendar here too. I always write in that stuff as well. It's not an option in most cases. It is
Yeah.
something that I do that will make me better at everything else on that schedule.
Yeah, I think, Megan, we tend to look at this as a luxury,
Mm-hmm.
or as some sort of selfish act. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm taking away from the kids. I'm taking away from, the patient. I'm taking away from my partner, right?
Yes.
Whatever it may be. And, I learned this a long time ago that, and you cannot serve or give all of yourself from an empty cup, right?
Yes.
And best case scenario, you're really serving people from the saucer, because your
Yeah.
cup is so full that it's
Yes.
overflowing, right? So,
Absolutely.
that's it. I mean, the airline, everyone uses the
Oxygen mask.
yeah, the oxygen max example, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, the plane is going down. Who gets the mask first? You do. It didn't
Mm-hmm.
say if your child is next to you, give it to your child first. It didn't say if grandma or grandpa is next to you, put it. No, it clearly states
Yeah.
put it on yourself first, because
Yes.
then you can be the best that you can be, not only for others, but more importantly for yourself.
Yes. Oh, I so agree. Thank you for sharing that. So, for sure, rest and sleep, one of the things we can do to improve our overall health. I'm
Mhm.
slightly biased towards the nutrition side, so I'd love to throw in a few food and nutrition questions.
Yeah.
Um, just as a general question, what are a few ways that you would advise our audience to improve how they're fueling their bodies so they can feel better overall?
Yeah. So, Megan, there are so many ways, right, for us to eat. There's so many great like food options, food ideas, meal plans, things along those lines. And I think that, whether you decide to go vegan, vegetarian, paleo, whatever it may be, keto, um, the most important piece that I feel is to eat whole foods, right?
Yes.
As much as possible, right? I mean, I think frozen vegetables are an option. I think I keep frozen vegetables because sometimes I just
Me
really don't
too.
feel like cutting anything up, right?
Yes,
It just it's
absolutely.
but
Absolutely. And they're frozen at the peak of their ripeness. So I try to
yes,
remind myself they have many times even more nutrients than the fresh
then
ones
the
that have
fresh.
traveled a million miles.
That's right. That's right. That brings me to the next option, is to
Great.
try to eat locally.
Ah, even better. I love it.
because of the fact that, when something, a mango is picked out in California, by the time it gets to New York,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how many days it's been on
Yeah.
traveling. It's just
Yeah.
not the same. So to try to eat locally, whatever foods are available locally in your area are probably the freshest
Yes.
and have the most nutrients, right?
Amazing.
Minimize your sugar.
Yes.
Sugar is and hey, the holidays just, I'm not sure when this is airing, but
It won't be right now. We're recording this at the beginning of January. It'll be a few weeks later, but still, people are probably still reeling from the
from
holidays.
the holidays, right? Yeah. So the holidays just finished. I mean, I think we all, everyone, at least myself, I know, have, done a little bit more than I normally do, right?
Yep, I did too.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, that we know that sugar, I mean, there's so many studies, like
Yes.
really good studies,
Yes.
that state that, sugar can be a precursor to Alzheimer's, right? We
Mhm.
obviously know for diabetes
Yes.
causes more inflammation. And it just goes, the list just goes on and on as to how sugar does not really benefit us, and especially things like high fructose corn syrup. I mean, like, my daughter's 15, and I remember when she was a little girl, she would be like, oh, high fructose corn syrup is garbage. I'm like,
Oh, that's so cute. I love
as
it.
she's a
And
teen, it's a different story.
yeah,
However,
yes. But I
you
think what you're saying is so important to hear because things like high fructose corn syrup, those have been normalized into our every single day. And the average American is unfortunately consuming added sugar a dozen plus times per day. And so
yeah.
you and I saying, oh, I had an extra grandma's cookie or something over the holidays, like that's not really the problem. Did I feel my best? Absolutely not, but that's okay. We can make room for the things that are truly important to us.
Mhm.
It's that daily consumption, even unaware, unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's what's causing the bulk of the harm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you hit the nail right on the head as far as being unaware of it, right? Because
Mhm.
everyone knows you pick up a Snicker bar. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably not the best thing,
right.
right? But you're picking up this healthy energy drink,
Mhm. Yes.
doing something good for yourself.
Mhm.
And you might as well have picked up the Snicker bar. It probably has less sugar.
Exactly. Or salad dressing or
Oh,
yogurt or someone saying, "Oh, I heard yogurt was a healthy breakfast," and that yogurt has 28 grams of added sugar or something like that. So it really does, unfortunately, given our food system, require a bit of knowledge. And thankfully, our listeners today are being empowered by that. But we know that not everyone is there yet. I wish we had some tighter regulations or some more wide-ranging education, but we're here doing our part, trying to get the word out.
yeah, definitely. And I think it is important. And I thank you for doing this too, because reaching your audience is really really important.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. So I think I cut you off in the middle there. You said for sure whole
Mhm.
foods as much as possible, vegetables local when possible, minimizing sugar. Are there any other things that I cut you off from saying?
Oh yeah, no, it's no cut off. Don't worry. It's a conversation, man.
Yes,
We're
that's right.
good. um, your water. Water
Mm.
is huge. I know,
Herbal
right?
tea right here, herbal tea, but I've
Exactly.
got my water too, so
Yes. Water
doubling.
intake is, I tell most of my patients, and everyone is probably so tired of me saying it. They're like, oh, I drink like 8 glasses of water. I'm like, yeah, but you're like 6'2" and 200 pounds. That's
Yeah,
like a
it's not gonna cut it.
sprinkle.
Mhm.
Just
Yes.
sprinkled on you.
Yes.
So half of your, I really try to educate people, to tell them half of your body weight,
Yes,
at
love
least,
that. Yes.
right? Because if you're a 150-pound person, that's a minimum of 75 ounces of water. And
Yes.
that usually, if you're measuring out those little cups, like, it's tough. So I
Yes.
always recommend that folks get a really good, responsible BPA-free
Yes.
water mug, jug, thermos, whatever it may be, and just
Excellent.
carry it around.
Yes.
Because it's
Oh,
much easier to just fill it up, 2 or 3 times versus having to fill up, this little thing.
12
And
times.
yes,
Yes, I know. I am totally with you. I mean, if you look, I have a glass over there, a glass over here, and a mug here. So I have three, but I do agree it would be easier just to have one and fill it up a couple times.
yeah,
For all the things that I get to focus on, water is not one of those. I just naturally drink like my body weight in ounces of water. It
nice.
feels good. I love it. I feel not energized without it. So that's one that comes naturally to me. But I know for a lot of people it doesn't. And they always say to me, I'm just not thirsty. I'm not thirsty. And then once they start drinking the water, they're like, oh, yeah, I was
I
thirsty.
was thirsty.
Yes. So if you're
Exactly.
listening out there and you think you don't need water, just take it from us, give it a try, get that half body weight in ounces, and you will feel better. I am confident.
Yeah, absolutely. And the piece, a lot of my patients will say, well, I can't get up to go to the bathroom all this time. I'm at work or I work, out in the field. So I really can't. And the reality is that once your body becomes accustomed to the water intake, you will not be urinating as much as you were in the beginning. So
As much, but I also think that unless you are a surgeon and you have a 12-hour surgery or something like that, of course,
yeah,
I've never been that, so I don't understand. But for people who are desk workers and they say, no, I can't get up once during the 8-hour day. I'm like, yes, you can. That's
yeah,
a
you can.
human need. Like you can make it work to get up. So
It's true.
that is normal. But I agree with you. The urgency and the frequency will reduce for sure. Okay. So let's talk about some fitness. We've touched on rest, we've touched on nutrition. Let's get into some fitness. Are
Yeah.
there any aspects of fitness or guidance that you can give to the average listener?
Move every day.
Love it.
Just keep it simple, right? I
Yes.
mean, to tell you a little bit about myself, I've played sports all my life. I was a Division 1 volleyball player.
Wow.
I've done a couple of triathlons, and I ran my first marathon a few years ago, and
Awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool. And so I've always been fit, and for me, I know that that's part of what keeps me grounded, right? And
Yes.
keeps me just feeling my best, right?
Yes.
And you don't have to go out and run a marathon,
Right.
right? Or do a triathlon or anything along those lines. But we do get to move.
Yes.
We have limbs, we have muscles, we have ligaments, we have tendons. All of that is meant to move.
Yes.
And walking is one of the best exercises you could do.
Agreed.
And it's probably, and there's so many ways that you could take walking, right? Like you can hit a hill, right? After you've, are tired of going flat, you can go downhill. You could change the footing as far as like walking from concrete to like a wooden area, or
Yes.
more unstable grounds,
Yes.
which will work your body, your ligaments, your muscles in a very different way than it would if you're walking on concrete, right? So moving a minimum, well, the minimum is 2.5 hours a week,
A
which is
week.
like about 30 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Most days out of the week. Um, you know, if that's what you can do, then do that. More is better.
Yeah.
In this case, right? We're not
Yes.
talking extreme. We're not talking
Right.
extreme.
Right.
We're just saying a little bit more could be better,
Yeah.
but get to move.
Yes.
Maybe park a little bit farther away from the train station, right? Or
Yes.
at the end of the parking lot at at the grocery store.
Yes.
Little things that we can do. Take a walk after dinner with your children, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of different ways that if we're just aware of what it is that we're creating, right? The intention to move, then
Yes.
you will move. But you got to put
Absolutely.
it in there. You got to have the intention to move.
Yes. And I love what you said, move in any way. Doesn't have to be CrossFit. It doesn't have to be a marathon. It doesn't have to be whatever. For people who are not currently moving their bodies, I think it's common to get into this analysis paralysis where they're
Ah,
studying what the best is and whatever. And surely, depending on your goals, there are optimal forms of different things. But for anyone listening who needs the inspiration, just move. Get out there and walk. Just do it in some way. Have a dance party in your house. Do whatever you want to do. Move.
oh, that's such a great one. I love the dance party pieces. I
Yes,
love the,
absolutely.
and you know what, speaking of having dance parties in your house,
This is going to
we
be good.
well, not that good, but I found another, we were cleaning out and I found the what do you call it, the little trampoline bouncer,
Oh, the rebounder?
the rebounder.
Yes.
I just call it trampoline thing.
Great.
And so much fun.
That is an
Totally
excellent
changed the
suggestion.
game for like
Mhm.
the months that I did not feel like doing something.
Yes. I think that's a great suggestion. I've considered getting one for my office and just taking like a 2-minute break in between clients and bouncing. It's so
Yes.
good for your lymphatic system and good for
Lymphatics.
your
Oh,
energy as well. I think it's a great suggestion.
yep. And I love the lymphatics. You hit on one of my favorite topics, the lymphatics, but that'll be
Oh,
another
well, for
conversation.
listeners who don't know what that is, tell the audience what that is.
So it's so interesting. The lymphatics are these little glands that are really all throughout your body, right? So,
Mhm.
like when you have a throat infection, you feel like these nodules underneath your neck area, right? If you have something going on in your breast, the lymphs, underneath your arm would tell you, hey, maybe there's something going on in your breast. The
Mhm.
other major areas, well, they're all over, but we'll talk about the groin, right?
Mhm.
Like you could feel your lymph sometimes if you have anything going on below the belly, right?
Yeah.
So they're basically filters, right? They're filters that clean out the bacteria, keep things moving, the blood, the bacteria, everything through the limbs, right? Filters. And so bouncing is an awesome way to work on your lymphatics because the actual motion of bouncing just gets things agitated and
Yes.
moving through. And it's so much fun. I
Yes.
feel like advocate. Now I feel like jumping on the bouncer.
Next podcast, we'll do a bouncing podcast.
Yes.
But thank you for explaining that. I think it's so interesting that every human knows we have blood. That's very common knowledge, but most people don't know we have this other whole circulating system that's the lymphatic system, and it is all throughout your body. So
Yeah.
that was a bonus tip of knowledge. Thank you for that.
It's my
Well,
pleasure.
I could talk to you forever, and I wish we could, but I have just a couple closing questions for you
Sure.
today. I saw something in your podcast bio about tuning into your unique rhythm. And I'd
Mm.
love to hear what you mean by that and how you could guide our audience to tune into their unique rhythm.
Yeah, the rhythm. I just feel that it is so important for our own person to be like the master, the linguist of the language of our own body, right? No one else should understand yourself more than you,
Yes.
right? Like we really get to be able to interpret like everything that's going on in our body.
Yes.
And so, in order to do that, there are multiple things that get to occur, right? Because, like I had mentioned earlier, we have been conditioned to move away from that, right? We're
Yes.
conditioned to move away from that.
Yes.
You listen to the powers that be in order to, you know, be successful, right?
Yeah.
And so tuning into your own rhythm means really just that. So silence, right? Being in silence with your own body, right? Being
Yes.
still is a
Yes.
way to also, get that understanding of self, understanding what the rhythm is, honoring it also, right? Because
Yes.
we've talked about hear, listen, and trust, right?
Mhm.
So it's great to hear, great to listen, but we have to trust that knowing, that intuitiveness within us, right? That language in
Yes.
order for us to act. So sitting still, sitting in silence, and I feel also moving your body
Mhm.
is a way for us to get in tune with who it is that we are,
Yes.
which inherently is a rhythm, right?
Yes.
Because we're all an energetic body, right?
Yes.
And when we're aware of how to move that energy through our bodies and to expand it, right? We realize that we really are all one, and
Mm.
that our energy interacts with other energies, and we can kind of, exchange and interchange it in a way that really creates this a healthy community, a healthy self, a healthy family. But it all starts with you,
Yes.
you know. So there's just so much more, and I love working with people to just really understand um and to guide them, really, because one thing is that I'm very clear that I'm not the healer, right? People call me the healer. People say, oh no, it's because of you that yeah, no, it really isn't.
Hmm.
My job, my calling is to really empower you to do and to
Yes.
guide you,
Yes.
just as you would guide your listeners to,
Yes.
right, is really to just guide you. It's not for me to tell you what to do. It's really this interplay, right,
Yes.
between us, as two people that are actually really learning along the way.
Absolutely. And I can tell, and I know our audience can tell that you are so good at being that guide. And you have several opportunities, especially one, the retreat coming up, which I'd love for you to talk about, but opportunities for people to learn from you. Can you tell us about the retreat and how listeners can find out more about you overall?
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, we are hosting, my partner and I are hosting our first retreat, which is called the Rise Retreat: Restore, Infuse, Surrender, and Evolve into the next season of your life, right?
Amazing.
Um, so it is an all women's retreat. So sorry, guys. The next one will be for you.
I love it.
But it's really for that woman who knows that there's more for her to be, right,
Yes.
in her life, right? She's probably achieved some level of success. She probably is actually doing pretty well, right, from the outside, but there's this yearning inside of her to take the next step, right? The kids are maybe grown, or she's reached the pinnacle of her career, or maybe she's looking to change her career
Mm.
and connect with really herself. And so we're going to spend 5 beautiful days on the island of Puerto Rico, with in sisterhood, which is really important, to
Yes.
create circles of women that will support, guide, and help you to heal, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I think there's information out there.
And we'll definitely include the link in our show notes for anyone listening. I highly encourage you to check out the link, as well as the link to the spiritual physician website and any other contact information there as well. So you also see patients and clients. I don't know if you call them clients virtually or not, but you see patients all over
Yeah,
the.
I call them clients, yeah, but
Okay, clients, but
Absolutely.
virtual is an option for those who do not live in New York. So that's wonderful to know.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, and you'll have Megan will put all that information on the show notes.
I absolutely will. And I know our audience is grateful to you for your wisdom. I am certainly grateful. Thank you so much for coming on Wellness Your Way today, Dr. Andrea. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Megan. Bye-bye.